Jessica Jones Season 2 came out 3 months ago, and now that Luke Cage is out, I think it's time for me to finally review last season of Jessica Jones. Whoops! I do apologize for that. I know I've been slacking on a lot of stuff lately. It's mainly because of school that's getting in the way, but now that it's summer, and I'm finally in a place where I can finally do more videos for you, here's a really late review of Jessica Jones Season 2. This season picks up after Season 1 and The Defenders. Even though they never mention The Defenders directly, I assume after The Defenders, Jessica is still dealing with how she killed Kilgrave, how she has a guilty conscience about that, but Trish and Malcolm, her closest friends, I guess you could say, are trying to convince her to solve the case of IGH, which is the company that was experimenting on her. Maybe she can find some closure through that, and along the way she discovers certain things and gets more invested with solving this case. That's all I'll say. I know it's been 3 months, but I still want to avoid some spoilers. I loved Season 1 of Jessica Jones. I think that's one of Marvel Netflix's best, that and Daredevil Season 1. In fact, if I could rank it like with the entire MCU, I never want to incorporate the movies with the shows because they're different mediums, but if I could, Jessica Jones would probably be in like top 5 territory because it's excellent to me. So of course I was really excited to see Season 2 of Jessica Jones because we had her show up in The Defenders, and it made me even more excited to see her again because I was reminded of how much I loved her character. And in this season, it started off a little rocky. I'm not gonna lie, the first 6 episodes, I'm gonna say, were a bit of a chore to sit through. Not that it wasn't entirely engaging, not that there wasn't anything that I liked about it at all. It wasn't like Iron Fist level of boring and mediocre, Jesus Christ. Nothing has been as bad as Iron Fist, but that first half of this season does get very close to the same levels of uninterest I had. There were still some things that I liked in that first half. Of course, Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones. I love her character, and I love Kristen Ritter's performance. It's so weird for me because I see her in interviews all the time, and she seems like a really happy, delightful person, and then you see her play Jessica Jones, and it's like it's not even Kristen Ritter at all. She's just so depressed and always on the verge of breaking down, but she wants to keep up like a good persona about her, and I love that. I still love that performance going into the season. So through that first half, we had Kristen Ritter leading the way as the leading woman, and I loved that because she's just a good and interesting character to follow. It takes a little while for the character to get more development. It takes a while to actually get really invested with the overall story, but for that first half, the thing that was really saving me from thinking this is like Iron Fist level was her. She's a much better character. Once you get to the ending of episode 6, a certain twist is revealed. At first, I thought, why does this have to happen? Like, it feels like you're trying to ruin what made Jessica Jones so special with her backstory in the first place. But episode 7 is a flashback episode, basically explaining how this happens, and then something else is revealed that basically explains another reason why Jessica Jones is so depressed, explains how she gets her jacket, and also why her company is Alias Investigations. Love that episode. From that episode onwards, the episodes just hit it out of the park from then on. Second half of Season 2, brilliant, and I loved it. I especially love seeing how it ended. It's one of the best endings to one of these Marvel Netflix shows. I'd actually say that it's a better ending than like Daredevil Season 2, I guess you could say. Because Daredevil Season 2 ends in a place where you're not sure where else it's going to go, and you have to wait till Defenders to see what else happens and how they continue the story. Similar to Jessica Jones Season 2, I think they handled it a little bit better though. It still could have made a much better impact if that first half of the season wasn't such a drag, but still, the ending is there, and it's pretty excellent. Janet McTeer is absolutely outstanding in this show. At first, you don't know what her character is all about, but once you do get to that episode 6 twist, that's when the character actually gets a lot more depth, and you're not really looking at her as a villain anymore. And that's something else I really love about this season, is that this doesn't really have, like, a villain like Kilgrave. Now, Kilgrave does show up. It's all in Jessica's psyche, though. Maybe him showing up consistently more throughout this season maybe could have helped make it more entertaining, because David Tennant is just entertaining as Kilgrave. But still, the fact that they don't have a main villain to rival Kilgrave, the fact that there's just people that are occasionally in the way but aren't necessarily bad people, I love that angle. Like, it actually makes this season a lot more interesting, more of a character study drama than like a good versus evil kind of thing. I thought that was a really great approach to tackling this season. And the chemistry that Janet McTeer and Kristen Ritter have is absolutely flawless. Like, I love seeing these two together. It does make me wonder why it took so long to get to that depth, that relationship. Like I said earlier, I think the first half is pretty, uninteresting, and it just doesn't feel as engaging as the second half. I really do think that the 13-episode structure of these Marvel Netflix shows is really hurting these seasons in a way, and I think you could have easily shrunk this down to like 10 or something like that, or 9 even, under that. Maybe 8, like The Defenders was. Either way, I do think at some point Netflix and Marvel have to consider shrinking these episodes down a bit, because if you drag it out like Jessica Jones Season 2 does, a really impactful and heavy second half of a season can be dragged down because of a first half that you have to sit through. For instance, the Trish character, it took a while for me to get invested with her again. At first, the character is alright. She has this fiancé who disappears after a couple episodes. It seemed like they were building him up to be something important. It kind of isn't. He just kind of disappears after a while, and it just didn't really feel like they had much for Trish to do. But like I said earlier, in that second half, that's when I think her character especially gets even more interesting. And there's certain things that they hint to in the first half that'll lead into the second half. That's why I think shrinking these seasons down a bit could have helped, because that could have actually had a better flow, and you could have actually been more invested with her character. Nonetheless, Trish and Jessica have a great relationship in this season. There's, in that flashback episode, a great heart-to-heart moment that they have that I adored, and it's great emotional writing. And seeing where their relationship takes them by the end of the season just makes me even more excited for another season of Jessica Jones, because they, like I said, they end in a very interesting place that makes you wonder how they're going to tackle the next season, or how they're going to make these characters interact in Defenders Season 2. If that's happening first or not really sure. But a character I really loved in this one is Malcolm, and I loved him in Season 1. I thought he was a very good presence, but in this one, it seems like they actually are giving him a very interesting arc to follow. His character feels like he can be doing better, but he always feels like he's being dragged down by Jessica. So seeing how his character tries to change this situation for him, try to have a better life for him, I love seeing that. Malcolm is honestly a much better character for me now. I loved him in Season 1, but I even love him more now that I've seen this season. I think they handled this character in a very good way, helped grow it. Also, a new addition by J.R. Ramirez named Oscar lives downstairs from Jessica Jones, kind of owns the apartment that she's in. I thought those two worked very well together. That was one of the things that I was more interested in while watching the first half of this season, was seeing these two interact, and it only got better and better as the season progressed, all the way up to that ending that I thought was really powerful. Carrie-Anne Moss kind of disappointed me in the season, not performance-wise. Performance-wise, she was excellent, and the storyline she was going through is wonderfully acted. Doesn't really have a place in this story, though, except for one thing near the end, but it doesn't really tie in much with the Jessica Jones story going on. It felt like they had to pad it out a bit, and it felt like they have Carrie-Anne Moss and we need to bring her back somehow, so let's just do this, and I don't think it really worked that much. Maybe if they found a way to do it better in a Season 3, that could have helped. But in this season, it felt like you already had a fantastic story with Jessica and Janet McTeer, but it just kept flashing back to Carrie-Anne Moss, and I was like, I'm not that interested. It doesn't really have a place in this. There's a rival PI named Chang, once again, not really a main antagonist, just someone who shows up every now and then to get in the way. Not necessarily a bad guy, or maybe not yet. Maybe that's what they're going to do in Season 3. I don't really know. I didn't really like his character that much. He shows up every now and then to basically just be the plot device that gets in the way of further progression, and they have to take care of him real quick. I just didn't really like his addition, and I didn't think it was really that necessary. With better writing, maybe I could have seen him as a better character, but that's the thing, is that it didn't have good writing, and it's just a guy who shows up every now and then, and I felt nothing for him. Overall, despite this season's flaws, I wouldn't say it's bad like Iron Fist was. Throughout Iron Fist, I was just feeling a constant mediocre vibe that only just barely got to a decent level, but didn't even make it there for me. Jessica Jones Season 2, I'd say, is decent. There are still some really good action sequences that use the brutality of the Netflix Marvel label very well. Kristen Ritter is excellent as Jessica Jones still, and I love how they grew her character. I love the flashback episode. The flashback episode might be my favorite. The ending of the finale, though, is even better, I think. So it's episode 7 and then episode 13 that are like my favorites as far as drama and writing and acting, everything. Like, I think it works brilliantly. And also the musical score, I love hearing that again. It has that great noir vibe that I loved. I'm gonna give Jessica Jones Season 2 a B-. It definitely does drag for the first half, and it definitely has some storylines that I was not interested in throughout, and there are certain things about the second half that I think were a little disappointing. But the second half, watching that is honestly worth sitting through the first half. Even though it is a little bit of a chore and it's not as engaging, it definitely feels like they're kind of meandering for a bit until they get to that second half. But still, it's worth watching. Jessica Jones is still marvelous as the character, so it's decent. Definitely one of Marvel Netflix's weaker seasons, but still better than Iron Fist. But if you've seen Jessica Jones Season 2, which you probably have because it's been 3 months, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and I will get a review for Luke Cage Season 2 out for you very soon. I've watched 5 episodes, so I've got like 8 more to go, still 13 episodes. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.